Here we are with another edition of my series of videos showing my romance novel collection. And these are my latest arrivals that have come in. I've actually got more than this, but these are sort of the keepers. And there's about 14 of them that are all from the AVON Romance series, which is here, which was a series of books that AVON Romance put out in the 1980s. They were mostly all historicals. And we'll just run through these. And here's two of them, of the AVON Romance. Now, the Fiction DB website, which is what I use to track a lot of books that were published, because it gives the dates and so forth, it had indicated that there were about 88 books published in this series, which have the ribbon in the corner there, so you know that this is the line, the AVON Romance. But unfortunately, they weren't numbered. They don't have numbers on the covers. But the original owner of this particular book put the number right up there, number 5. And this one says number 7. And she did that for all these books. And the odd thing was that the Fiction DB website said only 88 some books, but hers go up to 104, which is this one down here. Camelot Jones is 103, Defiant Heart is 104. And then the very next month, AVON apparently discontinued the AVON Romance series. They just continued releasing historical romance novels, but not without the ribbon. These were known as ribbon romances by fans. And so I poked around a little bit more on the Fiction DB website, and it turned out there were other AVON romances that they didn't have indexed as part of the AVON Romance line. So there were apparently 104 of these done, not 88. So since the Fiction DB website is wrong, that means that apparently there's not an index for this online for this series. So that's something I'm probably going to be working on as I get more of these books in. Now this one is a contemporary. This is book number 14. And as you can see, so they would release about 1 or 2 a month of these books. And at this time, they were doing both contemporary and historical as part of the line, similar to what the Richard Gallen books were doing at Pocket Books in the early 1980s, where they'd have both contemporary and historical. But eventually, very quickly, they just went to historicals. This is a book by Virginia Henley, who's a well-known British writer of that period. And here's 2 more. This is number 25, number 33. And we'll just run through these. And this one's by Laura Kinsale, who's a popular writer. Now this book, let's see when it came out. My guess is around 85. Let's see. April 86. So she eventually, became so popular that, she wasn't part of writing books, part of a line. She would do single title books. But you had a lot of writers that were very popular, like Brenda Joyce, for example, did some AVON Romance, part of the AVON Romance line. Catherine Sutcliffe, and others, even though they were, popular writers who could, do a best-selling book. Sort of how, like, Nora Roberts would continue to write for categories, even though, she was a best-selling writer. And you still see sometimes that today as well. Brenda Jackson, for example, still writing for Harlequin Desire and things like that. So these are the last 2 books of the line, 103 and 104. And at the back here, there's a note from Ellen Edwards, the editor of the AVON Romance program. She previously had been editor at Second Chance at Love, the Jove Berkeley line. And and then around 86 or 87 went over to Avon Books. But basically, it's in July 1989. Fallen Angel and Hearts Beguiled will come out. But they won't come out with the ribbons on them. They won't be part of the ribbon romance, but they are still considered, part of the Avon Romance program. They just won't be part of this line. So, that's that for the Avon Romance. Now, here's two books by Fawcett. Phyllis A. Whitney, who wrote a lot of young adult books and suspense-type books. And so these are, well, they look sort of like romantic suspense. These are actually originally published in the 1960s, but these editions are from either the 70s or the 80s. It's kind of hard to tell with Fawcett, but since they have barcodes on the back, that means it's usually post, 1979. So, you see other Fawcett Crest books by Phyllis A. Whitney. See, this was originally written in 1961. These numbers, apparently if it's 11 on there, that means that this is the 10th printing, because apparently that's the way it works. But it doesn't give any date of like when this book actually came out. It just says 1961. So if somebody doesn't understand how these things go, they might think, oh, this book is 1961 because that's the only date. Well, actually, it shows selection of the Bargain Book Club Fall 71. But again, this isn't that. So this is later than that, but you can tell because it has a barcode. All right, so now we have two other books here. Alice Chetwynd Lee, or Leigh, I don't know how her name is pronounced. She was a British writer, sort of like a Georgette Heyer type writer, who wrote a lot of Regency type books. I've read one of her books, The Georgian Rake, I think it was called, from 1961. This one I think is from 1970. Show some of her. There's the Georgian Rake. Wow. And this one's from 1970. This particular edition is from 1977. And I really enjoy her work. She's a British writer, writing, an early Regency type writer. And this is Signet in the 1980s had a line, a short-lived line of historical romantic gothics. So they were historical romances, but written like a gothic novel, like in the first person. This book is from 1987. So well after the gothic, fad kind of had run its course, it sort of died out in the 70s in a way. But they were still trying to, publish. Harlequin had their gothic romance line in the mid-80s. And Zebra Books had one in the early 90s and stuff. You can see it's, written in first person like a gothic. But, historicals were much more popular at that time. So it explains the sort of hybrid of the thing. Now, this is funny. Well, this is the first Tapestry novel, Pocket Books from 1982. Marielle by Ina Halliday, who is a pen name, I believe, of Sylvia Baumgarten. October 1982. Now, they didn't have numbers on the Tapestry books until book number 9, I believe. So at some point, where it says Tapestry there'll be a number below it on the cover. But this is the first book in that line. They did around 94 of these books from around 1982 to 1986. I'm missing about 13 of them and to have them all. But this one recently came in, book number 1, which I was glad to get. Now, this is an interesting story. Here's another Tapestry book. Now, this one I've had for a long time. This is book number 89. Julie Garwood's Rebellious Desire, which I think is her second book. Her first book was also released in the Pocket Books Tapestry line. And, let's see. It just says First Tapestry Books, June 1986. But I happened to pick up this, not realizing I already had it. Pocket Books, after the Tapestry line had folded. They reissued her earlier Tapestry books. So this is a 1990 edition of that same book. Now the cover, it looks like they just kind of extended the cover, but I wonder if the original painter had anything to do with it. You know, it looks like they just kind of said, hey, let's make her hair longer to fill it out. But I kind of doubt that it was, that the original artist had that in mind. Anyways, now pocketbooks, before they did the Tapestry line, they had a series of books from Richard Gallen books from like 1979 to 1982. But then they also had other historical novels that weren't part of the Gallen line. This one, Jewel of the Seas, I believe is from 78 and 77 or 78, and it sort of precedes. This is a kangaroo book. So it's not a Richard Gallen book. This is September 78. It's a historical. Now this one actually looks a lot like a Gallen book would look. It has that sort of slanted lettering of, and it has the same sort of back cover look to it. But when you open it up, it doesn't say anything about Gallen. Usually they would say something like a Richard Gallen book. It was January 1981. It's interesting. But anyways, this over here are two early Gallen books. And again, they don't say Gallen on the front. But when you look inside, so there's a Pocket Books Richard Gallen original publication, October 1979. So this may be the very first, Rosewood may be the very first Richard Gallen book, according to my attempt at a Richard Gallen index, because there's not a proper one done on the web. And you can see it has that slanted lettering and that sort of border around it. Eventually, that instead of just saying pocketbooks, it will say, a Gallen historical. They released them in both historicals and contemporaries Gallen books. Now this is another one with that frame, typical of the Gallen books. And inside, see, it says a Pocketbooks Richard Gallen original publication by John Toombs, who is the real name of Jocelyn Wilde. And then on this back it says, look for This Perilous Ecstasy and Pillars of Heaven, 2 Richard Gallen titles coming from Pocketbooks. So they've released 2 a month. But it's strange they had not yet put the Gallen wording on the covers yet. Now here's one where they did. By this point, it says Gallen Historical Romance. Apparently the idea is Richard Gallen books would package. See how it says published by Richard Gallen Books, distributed by Pocketbooks. So, and Judy Sullivan was the original editor. It looks like at this point she might have gone. And Margaret E. York was the real name of Joanna Makepeace. And this came out in April '82. So by September, I think September '82 was the last of the Gallen books. Let's see, there's another ad for Look for Enchanted Dawn by Barbara Faith coming next month from Richard Gallen. So apparently Richard Gallen books, they sort of packaged the books, and then they were distributed by Pocketbooks. Now here's a Zebra Bouquet. These are from this is from the 2000s. I did get actually a bunch of Zebra Bouquet books. This one is written in there, saying number 67. It has a different cover design than the normal Zebra Bouquet books, so I don't know why that is, unless it's some sort of later reprinting of it. Usually they would say Zebra Bouquet and have a number on the front. I got a bunch of them, but this one I think is the only one I'm going to keep because I liked the writing style. It took place at a college among 2 professors, and just seemed intriguing. And also by Zebra Books, Precious Gem, but this was a Walmart exclusive line, and they were very thin. They have the prices, which I don't like how the prices are actually printed right on the book. They should have had a sticker or something so you could take that off. But let's see, they have the numbers right on there. So this is book number 120. Don't know how many they did, but I know it was over 200 of that line. So it was sort of, you know, a way for Zebra Books to have a line that was Walmart exclusive, like sort of like the Bouquet, but Walmart exclusive. There was also a Precious Gem historical romance line around this time. This was like around 1999. And the numbers are on the side there, number 12, number 16, number 20. Again, don't know how many of these were done, but they were look for available only at Walmart. I doubt there were many of these that done though. And finally, we have this is actually a brand new book. I mean, you can still find it at stores today. It's November 2020 of Harlequin Intrigue, Rookie Instincts. It's a larger print edition. I actually went to a thrift store and they had a bunch of these brand new books that people have read. It's like you can see the spine creases. But they were only 75 cents each, so I picked up this one. I could have gotten more, but just at that price, I was a little picky. And that's it. So that's my latest romance books. Thanks for watching.